I was in the process of working on another video when I stumbled upon a gem. Don't worry, the other video is still in the works, but I really couldn't resist covering this first. Now, we talked about Keijo in a previous video, the anime that had Kotaku up in arms. Spoilers, they're always up in arms about something, because anime women in swimsuits were battling each other with their naughty parts. Oh no, somebody save us from this fictional sexism. The website Heat Street has decided to jump on that bandwagon, but it didn't start out that way. Now, apparently the article on Keijo that is posted on Heat Street right now wasn't the one that was originally there. The old article, while still written from a feminist perspective and including more buzzwords than I care to read, i.e. none, at the very least it came to the conclusion that Keijo was not the problematic sex fest Kotaku painted it to be. Now, I'm not going to read all of the old article here, that would just unnecessarily fluff up the running time of this video. So I'm going to read an excerpt. If you want to read the whole thing, then check out the archive link in the description below, please. The dialogue instead focuses on female empowerment, taking agency to excel at a highly competitive physical endeavor, and finding the best strategy to smash boobs and butts together in the aim of personal growth. A true master class in how to write women. Even Cecilia agrees the characters have discernible personalities. I would be proud to tell my sisters, my daughters, my wife, I am a huge fan of Keijo, if I had any. The show's empowering message of self-reliance and sportsmanship has convinced me to renew my gym membership so that I one day can launch my opponent across a pool with only my ass muscles. Don't listen to the naysayers. Keijo finally subverts the sexism inherent in most anime by giving women a voice to talk about something else beside men. I have to admit, there's something funny in reading about a male feminist whose life is apparently devoid of actual women. But that aside, as you can see, the article actually praised Keijo for being about female empowerment rather than degradation. But, oh no, we couldn't let that slide, as apparently the head of Heat Street, Louise Mensch, wrote her own article to replace the one posted by William Hicks, and the old URL actually redirects to this new and improved post. So let's dive right into this work of art and see just how badly we can misrepresent this problematic anime this time around. Boob and butt fighting anime Keijo isn't just misogynist, it's child porn. Well, that certainly escalated quickly. Right off the bat, we have a great title that really just ignores all reality in an effort to paint this as a pedophile's dreamland, which, if you live in the real world and know anything at all about this series, you know that this is a disgusting misrepresentation of it in order to get people who are just going to see this in passing without doing any real research outraged. She starts off by quoting Kotaku's post on Keijo, and then Louise breaks into her own thoughts. I agree completely, but there is another side to it. Keijo follows a normal practice in anime of making the characters seem young with large, wide eyes. This may not usually be a problem, but in Keijo it definitely is. Well, I'm certainly convinced. Nothing like an assertion with absolutely no evidence other than a still image taken out of context to back up your claim. The soft porn premise of the show is now paired with anime characters that look like children. See? The girl on the right with white hair has the underdeveloped breasts of a prepubescent child. Ignoring the fact that a writer used the wrong version of paired here, I don't know any children that look like this. The girl she's talking about is one Sayaka Miyata, who is around 17 or 18, so definitely not a child, and I'm amazed at the implication here that small breasts automatically equals prepubescent. First, if someone is prepubescent, then they have yet to develop breasts, and second, there are full-grown women with small chests that exist, and they have no control over how large their breasts become without cosmetic surgery. So maybe you should stop shaming them for their bodies. I mean, that doesn't sound very feminist of you now, does it? What's a feminist to do? We shudder to find ourselves on the same side as the fominists who cry about sexualized video games where both male and female characters have strong, sexy, but clothed physiques. I laughed long and hard at the feminists who bitched at Jumanji. Ooh, I know the answer. Pick me, pick me. Yes, I believe the answer is write an article that grossly misrepresents the topic in an effort to create controversy in trade for ad revenue. But this is different and beyond gross. It is the combination of porn and cartoons that's disturbing at first, and then it moves on to the child rendering typical of anime that is fine when a character is non-porn, but gross as hell when the cartoon in question is nude women fighting with their sex organs. Okay, it's absolutely clear to me that this woman hasn't actually watched this show. There is no porn here, there's no sex involved. The characters aren't fighting while nude, but sometimes clothing does get torn. It's girls battling it out with their body parts, and as I've said before, it's absurd and it's silly, but I have yet to see it come off as overtly sexual. It's more humorous than anything else, and I wasn't aware that butts were a sex organ, and last I checked, although they can be considered a sex organ, breasts are also a mammary gland. So yeah, on this one, I fear that feminists and feminists are going to wind up on the same side, and quite honestly, if you are a bloke who likes mud wrestling porn, maybe you should grow up and get out of the comics section. And if you can't even do that, at the very least try and make sure your animations don't feature women that look suspiciously like little girls. Could it be because both groups that you're desperately trying to differentiate are actually one and the same? Now, I'm not saying different groups cannot agree on the same ideas, but feminists aren't actually a group. It's a word made up to separate her from people she might usually dislike, so she's trying to paint herself as quote-unquote one of the good ones, while simultaneously indulging in their manufactured outrage over fictional women. And to make it worse, she's trying to paint this as a show for men who are interested in little girls, when, canonically, the girls are around 18 years old and there is no sex involved. I pointed this out in the last video, but there are women of various different body types in this series, so again, it's factually inaccurate to call them little girls. This is the kind of surface-level take on media where people who aren't actual fans and know nothing about it will see this headline, read this post, and be tricked into thinking that a series like this is something that it very clearly isn't if you took the time to either sit down and watch it, or do the slightest bit of reading yourself. These people are constantly posturing about how media is affecting us, and yet for some reason, their sole focus is just on sexualization rather than violence. Now, obviously, I don't believe TV shows and video games cause any of these things. If anything, I would think the effect is quite the opposite, because you can have your fantasy and come back to the real world, but you would think that violence would be a bit more of a pressing issue. People are allowed to step out of the real world and indulge in fantasies that are either not acceptable and or not possible in reality. I've stated before that overindulgence in anything is unhealthy, so it's entirely possible to get too involved in fiction and lose touch with the world, but that is not the common experience for the majority of people, and as such, the majority should not be treated as though they fall into said category. Teaching children the difference between fantasy and reality when they're younger is the key. What I find truly disturbing is that this woman went out of her way to remove an opinion-based piece from her site and replace it with her own. Rather than leaving both of them up for scrutiny, she replaced it as though her opinion is somehow factual, when the reality is that it's clear she knows absolutely nothing about the topic she's discussing. And I don't say that as a way to write off her opinion. She's absolutely entitled to have one, but the problem is she's blatantly misrepresenting the material at hand with nothing to back up her words, and that just makes it dishonest. Labeling it as misogynist child porn is not just an opinion, but an accusation, and a very serious one that I think must be refuted. This seriously just comes off as someone who read the Kotaku post and decided they must jump on the outrage bandwagon too, without giving a real look at the source material, and going solely based off of the opinions of like-minded fools. It's funny because I don't even really consider myself a fan of this series by any means, but I find it really bothersome how it's being treated by media outlets that seem to ignore reality in favor of pushing their opinion. Thanks for watching.